Hello everyone, I'm here today with a flip-through video. I'm showing you the first part of my train travels album, and it's actually more than half of the album because it covers the day trip to Winona and the day trip to Crosse, and then the last kind of 1/3 is when I went to Milwaukee and Chicago, which was the same trip. So what you're seeing today are the first two trips that are in this album, and as you can see, I kind of took the album apart. It's with a flip book, it's just generally easier to work on it like that because of the prongs constantly needing to be like undone and redone. It's kind of a hassle and I don't want them to break, so I decided to just take out the pages and we'll look at them this way. This is my opening page, pretty self-explanatory, but I love the colors. I generally have a hard time using pages like this because I don't know what to do with them. Like there's almost too much color happening, but for this, it worked out really well to just use white letter stickers, and then I had this chipboard piece, and then do the year. That's kind of it. So it actually made it really simple, which I'm grateful for. So on this side, this is when I was taking off to Winona. I didn't do anything too crazy here, just a little bit of stamping and some ink splattering puffy sticker, nothing crazy. Then I have a 3x8 insert here, which shows the station in Winona. It's kind of an older style, so I wanted to make sure I got that in there. And then just some notes about my arrival and the date. And then the first place I actually passed was the Winona State campus. And I walked around a little bit, but not a whole lot, so I figured these two photos were enough to showcase that. And then on my way into kind of more of the heart of town, I also passed this beautiful church. There was actually a service happening. I'm not sure if it was a wedding or a funeral. I don't remember. But there was a service happening, so I didn't go in. I just looked at the outside. But you can see there it says Central United Methodist Church. And I just kept this very simple because I wanted the details of the church to be the focus. Then from there, I went on to the Winona Public Library because that was also on the way. So it was on my path. And so I figured I might as well stop. And they had this insanely gorgeous glass dome. And you wouldn't know it looking from the outside because part of it's been remodeled and it looks modern. And you just wouldn't suspect that that's in there. So that's kind of cool. So this is obviously the older part. There is a flip here. So I have a tab for that. Just did a quick selfie in there. And then I did use a little bit of the vellum from this side over here so that they would look cohesive. So I have all of that. I love this full pager here to showcase that dome because really, I mean, how lovely is that? When I was done there, I knew I needed to kind of get down closer to the river to see the other things that were along my route. And so this is a bridge that spans the river down there, and it just was looking very lovely in late August. There were still a lot of plants in bloom and things, and I like this color palette, so I thought, well, that's very picturesque. I'm going to take a picture, and then I liked it so much that I decided to just do it as an enlarged photo. And the back is just it's actually some specialty paper. It's like a fiber paper with some little specks in it, and so it looks very natural, and I figured that was good for this kind of photo. And then I passed this beautiful flower shop, a local flower shop in town, and I just love the way that they have the outside decorated. Such bright colors to it. It was kind of, the day started out well, and then it kind of got cloudy for a while, and then it got sunny again. It was a mix, and I just felt like this was so bright and cheerful and very summery still, which I really liked. Then at that point, I was kind of done in that area, and there is a bus that runs, but it was easier for me actually to just take a lift from where I was to get to the art museum, because this art museum, like, it's kind of weird placement. It's out on like this sort of desolate industrial road. It's not in the heart of town like you think it would be, but it is on the river. So the outside setting, it works. I mean, it's beautiful and I get why they did it, but it just makes it a little bit tricky to get there if you're using public transportation. So I did get there, and I loved this exhibit with all these large scale sea items here, and they left a little prop, this little photo on a stick here. And so I'm like, you leave that around, I'm gonna take a selfie, and I did. So I have that in there. And I went with the pink because I had a pink shirt on. I don't get to use a whole lot of pink normally, and I thought, well, if there's an opportunity, probably should use it. So that's that. And then this, I have a couple of these collages in here, and it really just makes these kinds of albums so much easier. It kind of takes some of the guesswork out, because if I'm just dropping these into a template and then I can print and all I have to do is embellish, that's pretty awesome. It gives me minimal amount of work, and then I can choose very simple embellishments and it'll still look good. So that's what I did here. I just used 2 chipboard circles and that's it. This was another part of the exhibit, and I did the same thing here. I just used a template and I dropped in some digital background paper and then just used matching chipboard pieces. And I got lucky. I didn't plan that beforehand, but it just worked out that I had stuff where the colors actually matched. So that was quite nice that I didn't have to think too hard about that. And then when I was done, I went back into town, and here I am along the river again, and look at what a beautiful day it turned out to be. So really the times it was cloudy is sort of when I was finishing my first round of stuff and then in the museum. So who cares? I wasn't missing anything when I was in there. And then when I came out, the weather was beautiful again. And then this was the end of the day. After that, I had done a lot of walking. I had planned to use the bus much more than I did. And so miles upon miles of walking, I was like, you know what? I just need to find somewhere good, somewhat near the train station, sit down and have a long leisurely dinner. So that's what I did. And that's what you're seeing here. So that was the end of the Winona day trip. I didn't take any photos of the station once I was there to go back home. So I don't have any of that I'm using. So I'm actually just gonna remove those, get those out of the way. And then this starts the Crosse section. So here, since it's kind of my opener, I just did some basic info here and then talked about why I was choosing to do this. It was kind of an added-on day trip, and Crosse isn't really that far. I mean, I've done day trips there where I've driven myself, and that's fine, but it's kind of nice not to have to do the driving. When I can just sit and look out the window, I can read my book if I want, which I did, and that's the way to go, really, in my mind, if you can do it. And then on this side, I actually got seated next to someone who's in a train group with me. And so that was kind of fun. And we didn't know we were going to be both on the train that day. So very, very fun surprise. And then there is the station. Once I got to Crosse, I didn't really take a lot of pictures on the train because we were yapping away. And then these two do go together. This was just to show the arrival at the station. They have a very nice sign out front. And then I do have a tab here because this lifts up. And once again, I have a habit of doing this. I say, yeah, when I get there, I'm going to take the bus all around town so I don't have to walk. Well, I did do some of that here. But when I got there, the weather was so good and it was so pretty along the way. I thought, you know what? It's only a mile. I'm just going to walk it. Once I was into the main part of Crosse, I found this diner, and it was very 80s themed, called the Breakfast Club Pub. And I was worried, oh, when I get in there, is it going to be kind of lame, this 80s theme thing? No. Some people might think so, but I didn't. I really enjoyed seeing all this, and I love this on the wall, this mural they painted from the Breakfast Club. Absolutely hilarious, and it kind of made my day because I love that movie. And then my food was really good. I mean, look at this. The portions were insane. And for what you pay, I mean, it's more than worth it. I ended up actually not eating dinner in Crosse because this filled me up all day. It was kind of brunch by the time I got there, and I did not need to eat again, really. It was just so filling. So if you go to Crosse, check out this place. So once I was done there, I went on to find some other things around town, and one of the things I wanted to see was the St. Joseph the Workman Cathedral, because it's kind of one of the top attractions in Crosse. Now, I will say this is very plain, and that's because I ended up with not a lot of photos. I went in And I figured something was up right away because it was kind of quiet. Like there weren't a lot of people milling around like in the lobby area or anything. And so I thought I better be quiet just because maybe there's a wedding or a funeral or, you know, something happening. So I went in and saw a couple of things. Sure enough, I figured out pretty quickly there was a wedding happening. I saw people just coming like in and out of the doors. There was a child crying eventually and they came out and I could tell just from the way they were dressed, pretty sure it was a wedding. So I couldn't go in and actually see the inside, the big part of the cathedral, which is sad. But you know what? That's just motivation to go back some other time. But I did take the photos and just did some very basic things with them. So I wanted to bring out the yellow, which I did. Just did a little stamping here and just called it good since I really didn't have any other photos. As I was leaving the cathedral, it actually started to rain a little bit. And so I thought, okay, well, where can I go quickly that's close and just sort of wait that out for a little bit? And there was this place, Jules. It's a coffee place. And so I thought, all right, well, that's fine. I can go in, have a coffee, relax, read the book that I brought. So I was actually able to read several chapters while I was in there. And again, I didn't have a ton of photos. It was not a planned stop really. So I just did my little coffee date label, put this on there, a little puffy sticker for a geotag, and that's it. It just so happens that right next to that is a bookstore, and that works out great. I probably would have gone in there anyway, but because it was still raining at that time, I thought, okay, well, no big deal. I'll just basically walk next door, go look at some books to bide my time, and I have zero problem with that. And I actually am really glad that that happened because I loved this bookstore. It's called Pearl Street Books. So again, if you are in La Crosse, pop in there, give them your patronage. Their staff was super friendly. One of them actually helped me pick out a book and I did buy it and take it home. And I haven't read it yet still, but I have it. And I very much appreciated their help and their customer service. And I love books. And they had this cool sign out here for F. Scott Fitzgerald's upcoming birthday, and I thought that was so awesome what was on there, so I wanted to put that front and center of the flip. But then underneath I do have this, that's very much me. And then I just did a little stamping right there because there was that dead space where the flooring was, and so it worked out really well. It was a really easy layout to put together. And I ended up spending quite a bit of time there, like more than I intended. I really wasn't watching the clock. And so all of a sudden I looked outside. I'm like, oh, it's not raining anymore. Now I can go to my next thing. And when I looked at the time, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to like go through this garden faster than I intended. So I did have quite a few photos, but I really pared down. It wasn't what I would normally take because of the time factor, but I did get quite a few, but I pared it down to the ones I thought were the most lovely and showcased it the best. So here are some from the the Chinese garden here. And I just did a little die cut, some pattern paper. This phrase, really not a lot to it. But this side, this was part of the French garden. And I love their little Eiffel Tower that they had. And it was end of summer, but everything was still very much in bloom. And they had this bright pink and fuchsia happening. So I figured I could do something with that given all those bright colors. And I'm really happy with the way those die cuts worked out to just tuck them under the photo. And then on this side, I wanted to bring out the yellow. And I had this card. This is actually from Inky Quill. She makes her own printables. And this is one from, I don't know, it's probably like 4 years ago or something. But when you buy the digital files and download them, you can use them whenever you want. So I pulled this one out and used it again. And then under here, I have a tab because I do have a photo flip. So there's just another view of kind of the back area of the garden and then a close up. And I just did a label there and left it at that because these were so bright and busy. I don't feel like it needed a whole lot more. And then here is my last stop of the day, and that was going back to the train station. And it was not quite sunset when I needed to be there. And so once again, I found my way back. I walked part of the way and then did bus part of the way. It just worked out the best to do it like that. And then when I got there, it was just starting where the lights were coming on. So I waited in the station, but the weather was nice. And so then I thought, well, forget that. I'm going to wait outside in the nice fresh air. So I was outside the station for a while. And then there is the train arriving right before I boarded. And this one, I just did some ephemera pieces, some stamping, and then I did some gold splattering because it looked too blank otherwise. Once I added that on there, I was much more satisfied. So that is the end of the flip through of part 1 with Winona and Crosse, and then I hope you'll stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching.